Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, get ready, because today we're exploring a vision of the future, one that's less about building rigid things and, well, more about composing intelligence.
Exactly. We're going to unpack this next big evolution for the web.
And maybe more importantly, the absolutely critical human skill you'll need to really thrive in it.
Yeah, we've got some fascinating source material we're digging into. There's this one document sketching out web.
Opportunity, wow.
Right. And another one reflecting on something they call symphonic AI fluency.
Symphonic AI fluency. Okay, so maybe just think for a second, you listening right now, how do you work with your digital tools? Is it mostly, typing commands, clicking buttons, getting a specific thing done?
Would you tell it what to do?
Exactly. Or are you starting to feel like sometimes the tools are almost anticipating you, maybe getting ahead a little?
Yeah, a little bit of that is starting to creep in.
Well, this deep dive is about a pretty fundamental shift in that whole relationship. It's a move towards systems that actually work with you intelligently, harmonically even.
It's a whole new way of sort of being digital, you could say.
Okay, let's unpack this then. You've seen the internet change, right? Multiple times.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We had Web 1, remember? Static pages, basically read-only, just consuming information.
The early days, very simple.
Then Web 2 came along. That was the social interactive wave, mostly centered on those big platforms. You created stuff, connected with people.
But often inside their walled gardens, right?
Totally. And then more recently, Web 3. Lots of talk about decentralization, ownership, tokens.
A different focus again. Each wave added something, maybe some complexity too.
Or new gatekeepers, sometimes.
And what's really interesting about this next phase, web in Texatu, as the sources frame it, it's not primarily defined by a new interface or even ownership like Web 3 tried to be.
So what is the core idea then?
The absolute core principle here is orchestration.
Orchestration, like conducting an orchestra.
Yeah.
How does that translate to tech?
Well, think less about a performance, maybe, and more about the act of conducting. It's about the coordinated action of lots of intelligent systems.
Okay.
All moving together in tune with what the human actually intends. So instead of us constantly having to adapt to rigid software rules or clicking through predefined steps.
Which can be so frustrating.
Right. Web systems are designed to respond more intuitively, maybe anticipate needs, support more fluid ways of working together. The system adapts to you, not the other way around.
So it's not just about having really smart individual AI tools.
No, that's only part of it.
It's about how they all work together.
Yeah.
Seamlessly, like they're listening to each other.
Yeah.
And crucially listening to us.
Exactly. That's the heart of it. In this model, these AI agents, they aren't just single tools you issue commands to.
Right.
They act more like, well, intelligent partners. Anticipating tasks, fetching info, maybe suggesting next steps without you even having to ask explicitly.
And the interfaces themselves, they change too.
Yeah, the idea is they don't just display data. They respond to your behavior, your context, your intent. They're constantly learning.
Okay, wow.
And the whole environment, the apps, the services, the data flows, it evolves through continuous feedback, adapting in real time based on how people are actually using it.
So it becomes alive, almost. A living ecosystem, moving away from those fixed, rigid structures we're so used to.
That's the vision. Less static, more dynamic.
That idea of moving away from rigid structures, it really connects to another analogy in the sources that they talk about shifting from a stack to a symphony.
Ah, yes, that's a key one.
Can you break that down? What does that mean, fundamentally?
Sure. So traditional tech infrastructure, we often call it a stack, right?
Yeah, like layers built on top of each other.
Exactly. Like building a house, foundation, first floor, second floor, roof. Each layer depends on the one below, but they're often built kind of independently.
Okay.
The symphony analogy is totally different. Imagine composing music. You're not just adding instruments one by one, are you?
No, you're thinking about how they all sound together.
Precisely. Harmony, melody, rhythm, texture, how all the different parts interact simultaneously to create the final piece.
Okay, so it's about designing for coherence, for interaction, right from the start, not just stacking separate bits.
That's it. And the sources actually break this down into these key layers that have to work together, like sections of that symphony.
What are they?
Well, there's the cognitive layer. This is where the thinking happens, the adapting sirens, your AI tools, the assistants, the intelligence, basically.
Makes sense.
Then you've got the creative layer. This is all about expression, design, branding, how things look and feel, the aesthetics, and user expression.
Okay, cognitive and creative. And the third layer. This one feels really important based on what I wrote. The conscious layer.
Yes. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. and maybe the most different. The conscious layer isn't just about smarts or looks. It's about ethical alignment, emotional resonance, intentional use. How does the system make sure it's being used for good? How does it feel to interact with it? Does it actually support your deeper intentions and values?
Wow. Okay, so it's not just, is the tech smart, cognitive, or does it look good,
Yeah.
creative, but also the why and the how, the ethics, the purpose, the genuine human intent behind it all, conscious.
That's exactly right. And the crucial point is these aren't separate layers you just build and stack up.
They have to work together.
Seamlessly, like the strings, the brass, the percussion in an orchestra. They need coordination, harmonization to create something beautiful and effective.
And when they align properly, that's when you get those really smooth, responsive, almost intuitive experiences they're talking about.
That's the goal. And this holistic approach, it also fundamentally changes how you might think about governing these digital systems.
How so?
Yeah.
Because the governance usually feels like rules, regulations, pretty static stuff.
Exactly. Traditionally, yeah, it's top-down rules, fixed protocols, maybe votes on proposals. Website built on this orchestration and continuous feedback idea suggests something different.
Or fluid.
Much more. Coordination happens more dynamically. In real time. Systems adapt based on collective signals, on user feedback loops. Governance becomes less like a static rule book handed down from on high.
And more
More like an evolving process that emerges from continuous interaction. The aim is systems that can evolve naturally, responsibly, with use.
Okay, so let me see if I got this picture of WebSend. It's an orchestration era. Systems are adaptive. They work with human intention across these harmonized layers, cognitive, creative, and conscious.
Yep.
And governance itself becomes this dynamic, responsive process.
You got it.
It sounds incredibly powerful. But it also feels like navigating this world would require a completely different kind of human skill, like way beyond just clicking buttons or even writing prompts.
You've hit on the key question. If the tech landscape shifts this dramatically, from commanding tools to orchestrating systems, what's the human skill that really matters?
Yeah.
And the source material uses this fantastic analogy. Think back to the early web days. Remember how knowing how to Google like a ninja?
Oh, absolutely. Crafting that perfect search query.
It gave you a real superpower, right? That skill unlocked the potential of the system back then.
Totally.
Yeah.
You felt like you could find anything. An advantage.
Right. So the sources argue that the equivalent key skill for now and the future in this orchestration era, it's composing with AI.
Composing with AI.
Okay. They even use musical phases to illustrate the progression. The Google age, that search era, that was like the first movement, the solo melody.
Just you and your query.
Pretty much. A simple call and response with a relatively static information system.
Okay. And this shift we're seeing now with AI.
That's the move into the ensemble phase, the polyphony. AI isn't just one tool anymore.
Right. There are loads of them.
It's described in the source as a choir of agents, each with different capabilities. Right now, lots of people are focused on prompting individual agents, maybe chaining a few together.
Like playing notes on different instruments one after the other.
Kind of like that, yeah.
Yeah.
But the future, as they see it, involves syncing and coordinating maybe thousands of these agents, getting them to work together harmoniously. Human-AI collaboration moves from a simple duet to true orchestration.
Wow. Okay, so just knowing how to write a good prompt or understanding the commands for one specific AI model, the basic technical literacy, that's not going to cut it for this ensemble phase.
Not for real mastery, no. The source introduces this term, symphonic fluency. That's the necessary skill.
Symphonic fluency.
It's about understanding how to harmonize everything. Your intent, your ethical considerations, the outcomes you want, and the nuances of all these diverse AIs working together.
So it's not just making individual tools work.
No, it's about composing intelligence, guiding a complex system towards where you want it to go. This is what they call resonant agency.
Resonant agency. That sounds like feeling and responding in tune with the system, with the AI, and your own deeper goals.
Exactly.
That brings us back beautifully to that conductor analogy you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and what's so good about that comparison is how a conductor gets results, right?
They're not shouting orders.
No, they don't bark commands at each musician or write their sheet music on the fly. They gesture, they signal, they listen intensely. And they respond in flow with the orchestra, shaping the sound through subtle guidance and this deep understanding of the whole thing.
So that's the direction for us, for human agency in this era. We become composers through sensitive, high-level direction, not micromanaging every little detail.
That's the idea. Composing the outcome, not just building the parts.
And the sources say this isn't just like way off in the future theory. They point to practical examples where this orchestration is already starting to bubble up.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing early glimmers. Think about freelancers maybe using suites of specialized AI assistants that integrate fluidly, adapting to different client needs or project demands,
Okay, yeah.
streamlining collaboration, tailoring output dynamically, or startups prototyping adaptive apps that learn user preferences and behavior in real time, maybe reconfiguring themselves without needing manual updates.
That feels very web gem.
It does. Even online communities starting to use platforms that dynamically coordinate activities or information flows based on shared values and continuous group feedback. WebGem is presented as the kind of underlying infrastructure that could make these fluid, dynamic, responsive interactions the norm, not the exception.
It really does sound like a significant shift. And, for a lot of people, that probably brings up the big fear.
Being replaced by AI.
Yeah. How do the sources handle that anxiety?
They tackle it head on. And they offer this really powerful reframe. They suggest the relevant question isn't, will AI replace me? But rather, and this is pretty much a quote, you won't be replaced by AI. You'll be replaced by someone who resonates with AI better than you can.
Wow. Okay. That completely shifts the focus. It's not about the tech itself, but back onto the human ability to work with it.
Exactly. It puts the emphasis squarely on that skill we talked about, symphonic fluency, that resonant agency. The future, from this perspective, it belongs to those who can effectively conduct these multiple intelligent systems, manage complex flows of information and action, compose the outcomes they want with intuition, and importantly, with care.
That care part feels linked to the conscious layer again.
Absolutely. The source mentions an entity, harmonic sentience, as actively trying to build for this era, focusing on practical systems like adaptive websites, digital companions, but also providing ethical and creative guidance, trying to teach, build, and embody this idea of working harmonically with AI.
So if we try and tie all this together, connect it back to the bigger picture, the core reorientation that the source material describes, it's really about changing the fundamental question we ask about technology, isn't it?
It truly is. We're moving beyond just asking, what can this one tool do for me?
Yeah.
Or how do I use this specific feature?
Right. Those feel like older questions now.
The deeper, more relevant question for this orchestration era, and the one web systems are kind of designed to help us answer, becomes, how do our systems work together? How do they resonate with us? And ultimately, how do they serve who we are becoming?
We're learning how to compose tools and systems, not just operate them. It's a fundamental shift in stance.
Yeah, from operator to composer.
Okay, so we've taken quite a deep dive here into this vision of web staff. This era defined by orchestrating intelligent systems, getting them to align with human intention.
Moving from those rigid stacks to more adaptive symphonies.
Across those cognitive, creative, and importantly, conscious layers. And we've really explored that crucial human capability needed for it. Symphonic AI fluency, that resonant agency that lets you conduct, not just command, this whole evolving choir of AI.
And understanding this shift, it's more than just, intellectually interesting. It feels pretty foundational for anyone navigating what's next.
Yeah, the future of work, creativity, collaboration, our whole relationship with the digital world, really.
It really underscores that the most valuable skill maybe isn't just technical know-how anymore, but that ability to harmonize all these complex elements, your human intent, the ethics, the capabilities of diverse AIs, the evolving systems themselves.
Harmonizing it all into coherent, effective, and hopefully meaningful outcomes.
Exactly.
It definitely moves us from being like solo performers or maybe technicians towards becoming skilled conductors of these potentially vast, intelligent orchestras.
Well put.
And that leaves us with a really powerful thought from the source material to kind of chew on. Something to carry forward.
What's that?
It won't be the person with the most AI tools who wins. It'll be the one who listens deeply, flows intuitively, and composes their intelligence with care.
Listens deeply, flows intuitively, composes with care. That really captures it.
Yeah. So I'm going to reflect on.